lot made about Florida State and the ACC. Florida State and the ACC in a legal battle right now. A lot made about the grant of rights, and they can't get out of it. It cost them this many dollars. My prediction for Florida State is not that they will be out of the ACC by the time the season kicks off, but I think we will have a definitive answer on their future before we get to kickoff. And the reason I feel that way is there is such a massive pressure bubble growing within the ACC with Florida State. Like this last year threw gasoline on that fire, but it was something that had been brewing even before this year. It already felt some type of way about the money they were bringing into the conference and the piece of the pie they were taking away from that revenue they were creating. Like this was already brewing this past season with them not making the college football playoff. And you'd have to believe a fair amount of blame being put towards the ACC and what they didn't do, helping that college football playoff ambition be realized. Like I think that probably created even more pressure in that pressure bubble. But here's the thing about pressure bubbles, man. Bubbles burst. Like if you apply enough pressure, eventually something has to give. And it's not just that this thing has been brewing and there's more pressure now. It's also you see a bunch of different things shifting. You got the Big Ten adding teams. You got the SEC adding teams. Florida State's at this point where it's like, hey, we need to be in a conference that is going to be one of the halves in the future for us to be where we want to be. And also, let's call a spade here. Florida State as a brand would be extremely attractive to whether the Big Ten or the SEC. Florida State would be a have as a brand. People want Florida State in their conference. I have to believe that. Now, I don't have any definitive proof that's the case, but given the crowd they draw, given their alumni base, given their brand, Florida State is going to be sought after if they're ever on the market. Now, we're going back to this talking around the legalities and the lawyers and the money and all that. Here's what I would say on that. Everyone seems to have a strong opinion on this. Everyone likes to act like an expert because of the information that's available. All I would say is the information that's available is the information that people allow to be available. Meaning the people that actually know what's going on in that room when it comes to the ACC and Florida State and conference realignment, very, very few number of people there. Okay, so if they're letting something out because they're okay with it being out, they're able to craft that narrative so specifically to where they're the ones that control the flow of information. I've said this a couple times on this show, but I'll say it one more time. Let's go back to when Texas and Oklahoma are trying to leave for the SEC early. It breaks on a Friday. Hey guys, here's the deal. It's not going to get done. Just too many hoops to jump through. Legalities, lawyers, all that. We couldn't get it done. Sorry. Okay, great. So we go down here, cut a video, and we say, hey, it's not happening. Here's why. But we also, at the end of that very same video, said these things tend to change pretty quickly. The information is pretty minimal. Just keep an eye on this. This is what they're saying right now, but keep an eye on this. 1 week later, the narrative totally flips. Texas and Oklahoma, hey, good news, guys. We figured it out. No problems here. They're leaving for the SEC early. That was such a swift change. That was such a violent flip from it's not happening early to it is happening early in a matter of a week. And so what I'm trying to say here is as many people will yell and scream and tell you there's no way it happens, the grant of rights is rock solid, tell me what you want to tell me. But I understand now there's a lot that you're not telling me that's happening behind closed doors that may very well be Florida State having their way and may very well be Florida State finding their way out of this thing. I would also add the ambition and the motivation Florida State has, given what's happened the last couple of years. I think they will fight tooth and nail to be out of the ACC. So I'm not saying that they're in a different conference when we kick off, but I am saying I think their future is decided before we kick off. I think we'll know, hey, eventually in the year, let's pick a random year and say 2026. In 2026, Florida State will be in the Big Ten or be in the SEC. The Big Ten makes more sense, just so we're on the same page there. That'd be the shot I would call. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. I think Florida State and their future will be clear before we get rolling in next college football season. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.